Okay, so hi, my name is Melissa Segura. I go to school at UC Davis. My major is sociology with an emphasis in law and society. My career goal is to become a lawyer. I'm not really sure what practice yet. And my past involvement in the Japanese American community is through the Japanese American Student Society at UC Davis.
Hi everyone, my name is Syd and I use she, her pronouns. I actually just finished my undergrad at UC Santa Barbara where I majored in communication, but I'm going to go to grad school at the University of Cambridge in the UK where I'm studying medical sociology. Specifically, I study how fertility technology intersects with race, which is super cool. My career goal is to be a professor down the line, so if you guys ever have a little research project and you want me in on it, I'm your girl. My past involvement in the JA community is very diversified. I was very involved with the Nikkei Student Union at UC Santa Barbara, but I also chose to identify more with my heritage and study abroad at Waseda University in Tokyo last spring, which was an amazing experience. If anybody else is interested in doing that, please chat with me about it. I have nothing but good things to say.
So, what is NCI? So, NCI stands for the Nikkei Community Internship, and it is an 8-week internship focused on preserving the remaining Japantowns in California. Participants have the opportunity to intern in Southern California through Kizuna or through Northern California through the Japanese Community Youth Council in San Francisco, as well as the Japantown Community Congress of San Jose. And then here are the companies that the LA cohort has participated with and been involved with. So we do have some interns from the Rafu Shimpo here with us today, and we also have more online. So yeah.
So we'll give you a quick overview of what we've been doing during this internship. The biggest project that was the focus of our time here was the Legal Pioneers Legacy Project. We interviewed the esteemed former lawyer, Michael Yamaki, and just wait for the article, guys. It was a blast. He is so personable, so lovely, and really made such an impact on the community. So you guys are going to want to keep an eye out for that one. Beyond that, obviously our time here, we did a lot for Discover Nikkei. Most notably, we both published stories for Nikkei names, which is when we unpacked what our names mean to us, how they invoke our heritage, our culture, and our identity. We also did office visits to various JABA members, which we'll get into a little bit more. And then we also had the honor of attending the LA Unity Bar inauguration, which was an absolutely fantastic event. Thank you, JABA, for sponsoring us for that. We will be attending the JABA Gala later in August, which we're both looking forward to a lot. And finally, we had our weekly Friday meetings through Kizuna. So since Kizuna is such a core part of this internship, Alan and everybody else there really wanted to make sure that we spent our time doing professional and personal development. So over here, we have a photo of us with Alan, our boss, and then Helen Ota, who is a longtime member of Cold Tofu, an improv group based out of Little Tokyo. And she helped us get into our public speaking skills in super fun ways. So this is Mr. Michael Yamaki, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper and learn a little more about him. And you'll notice he's a pretty cool guy. He was born and raised in Southside LA, specifically Crenshaw. So if you guys are familiar with that area, you know that he probably had a very diverse upbringing, which is something that he talks about a lot when he's discussing what centers him, what his past means to him. And during that time, he ran up with the law a little bit, got in a little trouble. So after he was sent to juvie, he decided to kind of turn stuff around and eventually went to UCLA for his undergrad. He became a defense attorney. He is an awesome guy, and he really strives to protect maybe people that aren't served as much in the public eye. Beyond that, he also did a lot for the community. He was a big organizer for the Yellow Brotherhood, which was a community-based organization that helped troubled youths get off the streets and back into school. He partnered with local churches, with local people, and with local schools in order to make sure that these kids were really having the opportunity to talk about what they were going through and hopefully get them back into the classroom, which I just think is such a beautiful example of community organizing and community power. He was also the JABA president in 1982, and he had a really big hand in diversifying LA County's different unity bars. He was super popular and had a lot of fun meeting with other bar associations, which also led into his time as the director of appointments for former Governor Jerry Brown. When he was serving for Mr. Brown, he appointed many people of color to several boards, And one of the reasons he was so primed for this position is that during his time as the JABA president, he met with so many other bar associations for the Hispanic community, the African American community, the greater Asian American diaspora. And so he knew who they wanted in office, and he was able to really elevate those community members to the next level. And I think we're so lucky to exist during a time where it is more common to see people of color in these spaces. But for him, it was one of the first times that there was ever an Asian American in this position. And he did so much to make sure that other people of color were also being raised to that same level. So during our interview with him, I just had such huge levels of gratitude and admiration for the kind of work that he was doing for our community. And I really think it speaks to his legacy of diversity and the larger impact that he's had on our community as a whole. Just an awesome guy. Yeah.
So next we're going to be talking about Discover Nikkei. So this year their prompt was Nikkei names. And Nikkei names is meant to connect families, reflect cultural identity, and discuss struggles and more. So we have our two Nikkei name stories that are currently published if you want to go check them out. I wrote my story kind of about my struggle with my Japanese identity, just because I didn't grow up around it very much. And it wasn't until college in which I decided I'm going to learn more and I'm going to like dive deeper. But yeah, what about yours, Sid?
So I'm Hapa. I'm half white and half Japanese. And for me, I have a very white passing name. It's Sydney Haupt, just a little bit, some German influence in there. And so I talked in my story about how, because my name is white passing on paper, sometimes I feel like people aren't expecting me to be the person that I am. It's also gender neutral on paper. So there have been times where I walk in and they're like, oh, you're a woman. And I'm like, yeah, sorry about that. So I talked about that and talked about how throughout my life, I've realized that my name means that I can be treated differently in different atmospheres. And what that means for me as I get older.
So I will be talking about our JABA office visits. So we met with these four attorneys, Harumi Hata, Mike Marakoro, Mark Furuya, and Stacy Tomita. And it was honestly a great experience. The photo is from our visit to the Turner construction site in Pasadena, which was amazing. Each lawyer that we met with was very inspirational, and they each provided us with different like advice and recommendations for us. And I found it very, very helpful since I honestly didn't know where to start looking or how like the process goes for law school and then beyond that. So I'm very thankful to have met with all four of these people.
And even though I don't want to become an attorney, it was still so refreshing and inspiring to see so many Japanese Americans break into these spaces and talk so openly about their careers, the ups and downs of everything. It really made me feel like there was a community in my court, which was so awesome. Okay, and here's the JABA board meeting that we went to in July. It was so fun. Here's me and Melissa on the elevator. It went so fast and it went up like 50 stories and it was crazy. My ears popped twice. Absolutely incredible. So the JABA board meeting is a monthly event where the Japanese Bar Association gets together and talks about a variety of issues currently facing them. During that meeting, we ran through their very long itinerary. Thank you, Colin, for sending that along so that we were prepared ahead of time. We really saw the inner workings of a legal society. It was so fun to watch them have to nominate to like speak to different things and how they always had to second a motion. That was so cool to me. I had never seen anything like that before. We also saw the impact of Japanese identity and culture on the different practices that these attorneys had. And I just grew such an appreciation for the knowledge that even if you break into this practice and feel alone, there's always going to be some kind of group that you can join where you'll then again feel that like connection, that solidarity. Here's the view from the beautiful office that we visited. And yeah, pretty much every single attorney had a different background and specialization. So it was really cool to see how those different parts of their lives were affecting like their daily workflow and stuff.
And then we also had the honor to attend the Los Angeles County Unity Bar inauguration ceremony, thanks to Gary and Mike. It was July 19th at the Biltmore Hotel in Los Angeles. And it is an alliance of bar associations dedicated to promoting the diversity in the judiciary, advancing equity and conclusion in the legal profession, and building collaboration among members of the legal community. So these are the 9 founding members of the Unity Bar. And it was great to get to meet everyone from different bar associations. And for me, it was really cool because I am also Mexican. So having the Japanese American Bar Association there and the Mexican American Bar Association there was kind of like a little bit of a cool like a collab.
Yeah.
And it was inspiring getting to hear the people talk about what they've done and their journey. And yeah. Then I think there's another slide on it. Yes. So in the photo, in one of the photos, you have Colin and Gary. Colin is the JABA president for 2024, while Gary serves as the vice president. And then in the background, you could see some taiko performers. It was really cool. And then we have guests waiting for a full program of events, including messages from the governor, testimonials from members of the Unity Bar, and a panel. And we also had Candace from JABA as well sing the national anthem, which was great to hear.
So good.
It was so good.
So here's a little bit of an inside look at our weekly Friday meetings at Kizuna. Accompanying this is a photo of our entire intern cohort in the elevator. There's 12 of us and we have 2 bosses. So yes, it is possible. And this random older woman. So I would say that the Kizuna Fridays are really dedicated to 2 areas. The first being professional development and the second being identity. So every week we had a different focus. The first week we talked about identifying our strengths and weaknesses and how to incorporate that into our workflow lifestyle. And then we also had Helen Ota from Cold Tofu, huge honor. She is huge in the JA community. And she came and talked to us about public speaking. We did a bunch of really cool improv exercises that I super enjoyed. And then we had Todd Odagawa from LA Care Health talk to us about applying to jobs. And then we had Carrie Zhang, who actually founded the Asian Mental Health Project. We had a really constructive conversation about mental health and overcoming stigmas around mental health, especially in the Asian American community. I would say that the workshops around identity were extremely helpful and made me feel so close to my cohort as a whole. For the first week, we did life maps where we discussed what brought us to this internship, how we feel about our identity, what exactly brings us all together, which was super fun. We also discussed the history of Little Tokyo. This was probably one of my favorite Fridays of all time. We had Kristen Fukushima, who's the LTCC managing director, come in and give us an incredibly constructive history of Little Tokyo, starting at like the 40s and then moving all the way to present day. And it was so inspiring to hear from another community member just the testification of how much Little Tokyo has stood the test of time. And beyond that, to hear that people are still organizing to protect Little Tokyo, which is something that, we've all discussed, seeing the advances of gentrification in Little Tokyo and how we want to protect something that we care about so much. We did a walking tour after that with Mike Murase from Little Tokyo People's Rights. He's a local organizer and he's been in a lot of spaces. This is just one of them. Living legend, absolute icon. And I feel so privileged that I can walk around Little Tokyo and point out every single little thing and tell you exactly when and why and what this means. And it feels just so valuable to be connected to our history in that way. And then no bias here, but Mitch is probably one of my favorite people ever now. Mitch, who is the Go for Broke president and CEO, gave us this amazing behind the scenes tour of Go for Broke. We walked through the whole area with him. We saw the memorial where I was able to actually locate my great uncle's name because he served in 442. And he told us about an upcoming development that they're building there. And we just talked a lot more about what Little Tokyo's history means and how we can organize together to make sure that we're protecting its legacy. So it was such a valuable conversation. And I really can't say enough good things about these Fridays at Kizuna. Oh, and here's from our first week, our life maps. Melissa's, as you can see, was incredibly beautiful and constructive, and mine was maybe like a 30-second something over there. So very beautiful presentations, and it was just such a pleasure to get to know the other 10 members of our Kizuna cohort that closely.
So my personal impact from this internship, it's helped me grow closer to the part of my identity that I knew little about coming in with. And one quote that I remember from the Unity Bar event is, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go farther, go together." That really stuck with me because I do agree, I agree that it takes a village to accomplish what you want and accomplish your goals and dreams. And then my goal has not changed. I still want to pursue law school to eventually take the bar, woo, in California and go and be a lawyer. I just still don't know what I want to practice yet, but I do know I still want to go to law school. And I also learned how to drive through downtown LA because before this internship, I would not drive to LA. I would always refuse, but it has been a learning experience in more ways than one for me. And I included a photo of the Sudu family. So we have in our Japanese club at school, we have like families. It was Japanese folklore this year, so it was Sudu, Tanuki, Kappa, and I forgot the other one, but there was 4, and we won this year's Iron Chef competition, and I am 2 for 2 so far. I led my family to victory both years, so
Let's go.
I think this is like a great photo of just like a community and kind of just shows like what you can do if you have a group behind you. And then, yeah.
And for my personal impact, I feel like hearing so many stories from different community members, attorneys, thought leaders, just really showed me that, my growth doesn't always have to be linear, and every experience that I have is still going to take me on that path to becoming the best version of myself. I feel like that's something that so many college students need to hear, and it was so valuable to connect with other people and hear about how, like, hey, you don't need to have everything figured out. You're 22, you've got your full life ahead of you. That was something that I didn't expect to take away from this internship at all, and it was just so beautiful. I also really learned that Asian Americans belong in every space. Even to this day, sometimes I find myself struggling with my identity and wondering whether I don't get certain opportunities because of the way that I look. And it was so just personally valuable to see all of these people who broke into those spaces, who might have been the first person in those spaces, who kept their chin up and who kept fighting for that. And it just reminded me that however hard it gets, I'm still going to keep going. It's all going to be worth it. And probably the most lasting thing that I'm going to take away from this is that Little Tokyo will never disappear as long as there are people like us to defend its legacy. Growing up, my mom would bring me to Little Tokyo every once in a while, and over the years, I've really watched the landscape of it change significantly. And I often find myself wondering and worrying about the future of Little Tokyo and whether it'll still be here when I want to bring my kids here and my grandkids and all of that stuff down the line. I'm meeting with so many community members and seeing that people really are fighting for this in ways that I didn't even imagine has been just a dream come true and makes me feel so happy to be a part of this community. I included a photo of my mom and dad and I at the summer 2022 Delicious Little Tokyo walking tour. This was one of the first times that I came back into Little Tokyo after like maybe since high school. I was in college at this point. And it was kind of in this moment that I realized that my Japanese American identity was something different than my Japanese identity. And that if I wanted to like come back and fight for what's right, it has to be centered in Little Tokyo. And so this was kind of one of the first steps in me ending up at Kizuna and becoming part of this cohort.
So before we wrap things up, we want to give some acknowledgements. So we would like to acknowledge Vicky, Yoko, and Marjorie through JANM for being amazing supervisors and leaders, for helping us through every part of the internship, because at some points it was stressful.
We also wanted to make sure that we thank Kira and Colin through JABA. Obviously, there's a lot more people at JABA who have made this experience memorable, but your leadership and your generosity and kindness always made me feel unafraid to shoot you that late night email about my paper. And I can't thank you enough for being such a great leader throughout these 8 weeks.
We would also like to thank Alan Takashi Riley, just for being an amazing head supervisor, for placing us here at JANM and JABA. It has been an amazing opportunity, and I'm so glad that we were both chosen. We have a lot more in common, like Syd and I have a lot more in common than we came in knowing. Yeah. So it's just great to get to work with you too.
Thank you, Alan. You're a real one.
Yep.
We also want to thank these attorneys, Hirumi Hata, Mike Marokoro, Mark Furuya, and Stacy Tomita for taking the time to meet with us. Each of these office visits brought an entirely different vibe and really showed me how diverse the legal field is. And even though I'm not personally interested in becoming an attorney, I still felt like I had extremely meaningful conversations about identity, personhood, growing up, becoming myself. And so it was just such a pleasure. And I really can't thank you guys enough for your generosity. Thanks, everyone. For being
And then
here.
last but not least, the entire Nikkei Community Internship cohort. You guys have been amazing. We have loved working with all of you. We're gonna miss all of you so much, seeing you guys every single Friday. And also, but we still have the closing retreat, so we still have 3 days together. But thank you everyone for everything. We appreciate all of you. And we also included a photo of us at the Go for Broke Memorial whenever we visited last Friday. But yeah, thank you.
That was wonderful. Does anybody have any questions for Syd and Melissa? I have a question.
Yes.
So this is our first time having two interns working together like this. What was that like? Were there challenges or like, and also the other thing is that they were both working remotely the whole time other than their in-person visits. So how was that like?
We just met Vicky for the first time.
Yeah. And
Really?
Yoko.
Yes.
But overall, I think having another person has been it has been amazing just because it worked out in a way. Like you wanted to focus more on like academia, the cultural identity side, and I wanted to focus more on the legal side. So it worked perfectly when it came to the Yamaki interview,
Yeah.
especially because JANM wanted us to focus, of course, more on his identity, while JABA wanted to focus more on his legal legacy. So whenever we were doing the questions and the write-ups, it made that a lot easier. So both organizations can be happy. I don't know what else is there.
I would say there's just a benefit of literally having another person
Yeah.
with you when you're driving through Los Angeles. The parking at every single lawyer's place was different,
Yeah.
and it would have been quite a challenge if I couldn't call Melissa and check in about whether or not I was supposed to be in parking garage 5 or 6 or 7 and
Yeah.
travel and whether we should do ballet. So that was really helpful. And then I would also say beyond that, it's just really helpful to have someone else at work with you who you can bounce ideas off of
Yeah.
and connect with, especially in this situation where we're talking about somebody's legal legacy and it's something that you want to treat with the utmost respect. Just being able to like check in with questions before we sent them to our higher ups was super, super helpful.
Any other questions? I think Chris and Alan from Kizuna are both joining us via Zoom. Do either of you want to say anything about Melissa or Syd?
Sure. Sharing a space with some other folks today, so apologies for the crossover. I think I would ask, how would you prepare the next group of NCI interns coming into this program for the JABA JANM partnership?
That's a good
That's
question.
a really good question.
I would say definitely manage your time well because it is remote. It is so easy to get sidetracked or do other things during the day, but as long as like you keep it organized and make sure like, okay, so today I'm gonna do A, B, and C and make sure to get it done. I feel like that's probably my number one advice.
I think it's also a strong piece of advice to make sure that you connect with your supervisor, because there were a lot of times that I was worried my question was just dumb and I was almost afraid to ask. And then I was like, no, like I know that Kira and Vicky got me. I'm not worried about it at all. And so I think just making sure that you maintain that relationship can make you a really happy person. And if you have future interns where you have 2 of them on JANM and JABA, it might be worth them having a conversation about what they want to focus on, how they want to divide their work. Melissa handled a lot of the logistics for our internship, which I'm super appreciative of. And then I focused more on the writing. So dividing up the tasks made it a lot easier for both of us.
And I was really interested to hear of your separate interests and how those kind of worked out, where one of you was more identity-based, I think Syd, and Melissa, you were more the law side. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct, Chris.
I feel like it kind of worked out either way because even though I am more on the legal side, I want to go to law school. I have a ton of experience when it comes to culture and identity work. So I felt like that was a nice little blend. And then you also have a ton of cultural and identity work as well. So it worked out pretty well in that case.
I'm so pleased with this. Like, could not have been a better arrangement. No notes. Thank you,
Mhm.
Alan, for still matching me to this
Yeah.
internship, even after I told you in the interview that I didn't want to be a lawyer. You're a real one for that. Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. We really can't thank you guys enough.
Does anybody else have any other questions, comments?
I was just gonna say one thing really quickly. Yeah, so no questions for me, but just wanted to congratulate both of you on just doing so well this summer. I know again that this was kind of uncharted territory as far as having 2 interns on this project, and I think that you all both, you know, pulled it off with flying colors, and it was just such a pleasure working with both of you throughout the summer, and really enjoy just creating those relationships that I'm really hoping will carry on into the future. And I'm so glad that you know, you both have really found, you know, different places in the community where you feel like you can make that positive impact. So yeah, super exciting. And once this program ends over the next couple of days, just know that like our relationship, you know, going forward is not over here. We're always here to support.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
And yeah, if you guys know anyone who's in their undergrad and college, I would really encourage them to apply to this internship. Not only is it valuable in your professional development, but being able to meet a cohort of like 10 other Japanese Americans who really care about this community and want to be involved in it has been life-changing for me. And thank you everyone else for attending.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much to both of you. We really enjoyed having you both. I can't wait for everyone to read the rest of your articles. They did such a wonderful
Thanks,
job on
Josh.
everything, so check Discover Nikkei over the next month. Syd is our name of the month for August, and Melissa will be our name of the month for September. We will be publishing, in addition to the each of their Michael Yamaki articles, they each are writing a reflection article about their internship, and they are jointly writing a article about the Unity Bar as well. So lots more to come. We'll also be sharing clips from the video interview with Michael Yamaki. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.